Now we're gonna be introduced to this word called discriminant, right? Find the discriminant of each quadratic equation. Then we're gonna state the number and type of solutions. Okay, so first of all, let me have my right side equal to 0. So I'm gonna move everything to the left. So this positive 10, I'm gonna move it to the left. I'm gonna put it over here as a minus 10. Make sure that if it goes with the x squared, put it with, your like terms, put it over here. If you just had an x, put it with the second term. But 10 doesn't have an x, so I'm putting it with my like terms. Make sure you align with the like terms. So now when I combine my like terms, I'm going to have 7x squared plus 5x, and then let me even write a plus 0 is equal to 0, right? Again, I wanted the right side equal to 0. And I included the 0 there because I want to have 3 terms on the left side. Make sure you have 3 terms. If you don't have that one with the x squared, we'll put 0x squared. If you don't have the one in the middle, we'll write 0x. In my case, the last term, I put a 0. I need to have 3 terms. Now, the reason why I need to have 3 terms, because I'm going to come out with the value of 3 letters. In this case, I'm going to say A is equal to 7, B is equal to 5, and C is equal to 0. You see which numbers I came out with for A, B, C, with the sign included, though. Make sure that you pay attention to the signs. A is 7, B is 5, C is equal to 0. Now, the reason why I need an A, B, C, because we're going to use a formula. My discriminant will be B squared minus 4 times A times C. That's going to be my discriminant, okay? B squared minus 4 times A times C. So in my case, I have 5 squared minus 4 times 7 times 0. 4 times A times C. I know my order operations. First of all, I need to do any parentheses if I see any, which I don't. Then I have to do exponents. So make sure you do exponents later. So I see 5 squared. So I'm going to call that 25 minus 4 times 7 times 0. Notice I did my exponents. Then I have to do multiplication or division. So I'm going to ignore that 25 minus, and I'm just going to multiply these 3 numbers. 4 times 7 times 0. So again, right now I'm not looking at the 25 minus. I'm just looking at my multiplication. 4 times 7 is 28, but 28 times 0 is 0. And then lastly, the last thing that I do is adding or subtracting. 25 minus 0 is 25. Okay, now my discriminant, if I ask you, find a discriminant, 25, okay? So my discriminant is going to be a number. And then that came from B squared minus 4 times A times C, okay? So my discriminant is a number. So in your homework, some of your questions will be find a discriminant, and that's it, just 25. Based on the discriminant, right? Yesterday we talked about how to complete the squared, how to solve for the variable, how to solve for x. Now I just want to know what type of answers am I going to get, and we can find them, right? We can complete the square. We did that yesterday. We learned how to solve for a variable. In this case, I don't need to know the solutions. I just need to know what type of solutions I'm going to get. If my discriminant is positive, so let me add something here. If my discriminant is positive, I'm going to get 2 real solutions. Okay, so what does that mean? Like my answers could be numbers, right? Like positives or negatives. I'm gonna get 2 real solutions. If my answer, again, I'm just looking at the sign. If my answer is 0, I'm gonna get 1 real solution. And yes, you guys do have to type in the words real solutions or real solution. 2 real solutions, 1 real solution, right? Real numbers are those that we can put on the number line. Numbers we usually deal with. So if my discriminant is positive, 2 real solutions. If my discriminant is 0, I got 1 real solution. But sometimes my discriminant might be negative. Again, I'm just looking at the sign. Now, if I asked you, can you do the square root of a negative? Then we will say, yes, we saw this already. We're going to get 2 imaginary solutions. So this is what I expect you to type in. My discriminant is positive. I expect you to type in 2 real solutions. Notice it's all lowercase. If my discriminant is 0, I expect you to type in 1 real solution. And if my discriminant is negative, I expect you to type in 2 imaginary solutions. Okay, now coming back to number 7, my discriminant is positive 25. So if I ask you, state the numbered and type of solutions. Like I don't need to know the solutions. I just need to know what type of solutions am I going to get. My answer in this case will be 2 real solutions. And the reason why is because my discriminant is positive. Positive 25, but I just care about the sign. So be careful in the homework. If I asked you, find the discriminant, 25. If I asked you the numbered and type of solutions, your answer is 2 real solutions. All right, let's take a look at question number 8. Again, I want the right side to be equal to 0. So I'm going to move everything to the left side. This positive 8, I'm going to move it over as a negative 8. Don't forget to combine like terms. So I have that negative 5k squared minus 10k minus 5 is equal to 0. So I know that my A is a negative 5, my B is a negative 10, and my C is a negative 5. So don't ignore the signs. And I know my discriminant is the formula B squared minus 4 times A times C. Because of the negative signs, I'm going to use parentheses for my multiplication, okay? So I have negative 10 all squared. So I have to I have to square the negative. Negative 10 all squared minus 4 times a negative 5 times a negative 5. 4 times A times C. I have to do the exponent first. Negative 10 squared, that gives me positive 100. Minus 4 times a negative 5 times a negative 5. All right, in multiplication, 2 negative signs cancel each other out, right? 2 negative signs become a positive sign. So let me just say those I'm dealing with positives. Remember, I'm just dealing with my multiplication. Now, some of you might be like, what if I only had a negative sign? What would I do to the negative sign? Well, bring it to the front and change this minus to a plus. If you have a negative sign, just bring it to the front of the multiplication and change that minus to a plus. But in this case, I don't have one negative sign because my 2 negative signs cancel out. Now I have to figure out what's 4 times 5 times 5. I know 4 times 5 is 20, times 5 is 100. So that multiplication is 100. Before that multiplication, I have 100 minus. So my discriminant, if I was finding the discriminant, so in my homework, it said, find the discriminant, my answer would be 0. If it said, type the numbered in type of possible solutions, I will say 1 real solution. Some of you might be wondering, oh, yesterday we saw that there were always 2 solutions because of the plus or minus. How can we get at just 1 real solution? What if I asked you to solve for 4 plus or minus 0? Right? 4 plus 0 gives me an answer. 4 minus 0 gives me the same answer. So that's what we get. Sometimes we get just 1 real solution. Obviously, the 4 plus or minus 0 is not the solution in this case, but I'm just saying that can happen. So my discriminant is 0, and I get 1 real solution. Let's take a look at question number 9. I want the right side to be equal to 0. So this minus 7, I'm going to move it. Make sure you align it with like terms. So I'm going to put it right here. Don't forget to switch the sign. So I have negative 7r squared plus 6r minus 6 is equal to 0. Right? Negative 13 plus 7, that's how I got the negative 6. I know my numbers here, my A, B, C values. My A is negative 7. My B is positive 6. My C is a negative 6. You guys see where I got my values with the sign included, right? And I remember my formula for my discriminant, B squared minus 4 times A times C. So I have to go 6 squared. It's positive, so I'm not going to use parentheses. 6 squared minus, okay, now in this case, I will use parentheses, minus 4 times a negative 7 times a negative 6. 4 times A times C. 2 negative signs cancel out, so I'm dealing with positives. Okay, so I have 36. Remember, I did the exponent. So 36 minus, let me see what's 4 times 7 times 6. Use a calculator if you need to. I have 168. Let's see, I'm trying to write 168 here. So now 36 minus 168, right? Use a calculator if necessary. I have that is negative 132. So if I asked you, what's the discriminant? You will say negative 132. Now, if I asked you, what's the numbered and type of solutions? Your answer should be 2 imaginary solutions. They're imaginary because my discriminant is negative. So we learned before that to get the square root of a negative, I have to use imaginary numbers. Okay, our last example here, let's take a look at number 10. This minus 7, I'm going to put it here as a plus 7. So I have 10k squared plus k minus 0 or plus 0, doesn't matter, plus or minus 0, it's equal to 0. I want the right side to equal to 0. So my A is positive 10. My B is a positive 1, right? The number in front of k is technically a 1. and my C is equal to 0. And I remember for my discriminant, I'm going to go B squared minus 4 times A times C. So I'm going to say 1 squared minus 4 times 10 times 0. I know 1 squared is 1, right? So I have 1 minus, I might as well do the multiplication right now. 4 times 10 times 0 is 0. So if I ask you, what's the discriminant? I will say 1, right? Because 1 minus 0 gave me 1. My discriminant is 1. If I asked you numbered and type of solutions, right? Because my discriminant is positive, my answer will be 2 real solutions. There you go.